Tonight, bloodshed and bravery at Engadine. A terrifying stabbing spree follows a crash. 6 people injured, including a police officer. Heroes risk their lives, taking on the alleged attacker to save his wounded partner. Tit-for-tat airstrikes between Israel and Hezbollah. Fears the Middle East is teetering on all-out war. Multiple cars and a house smashed by an alleged drunk driver at Hunters Hill. New high-tech 000 call set to save lives and solve crimes.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. A man has gone on a stabbing rampage at Engadine in Sydney's south after a car crash on the Princes Highway. The 58-year-old allegedly slashing his partner and injuring 4 others, including a police officer. Bystanders risked their lives to protect the woman, with the attack playing out in front of families.
In the white T-shirt, a 58-year-old man on the Princes Highway, Engadine, ranting after stabbing his female passenger and himself. The woman is still inside the car.
Welcome to Canberra for all you bastards!
Standing at the front of the car, Cronulla Sharks chairman Steve Mace.
I heard the guy screaming in the drivers, but then I heard his wife, the partner, screaming even louder. So I ran round to the passenger, I tried to open the door, and finally jammed it open, and all of a sudden I see him just slashing it.
The man was armed with a box cutter, but Mace and another man, that's him in the brown shirt, still tried to pull the woman from the car.
I was then trying to drag her out of the car to stop the stabbing. He was sort of swiping at us. There was another gentleman that came to help. That poor gentleman tried to grab her legs and didn't realise he had the knife. He copped a gash from sort of up here down to his belly button, poor fella.
In a car directly behind, a family watch as Steve Mace and several others try to subdue the man before police arrive.
Don't be scared, sweetie, it's okay.
Dad, don't go out there.
A police officer arrives and chases the man. The officer caught him and fired his taser, but during the arrest, the officer was stabbed in the wrist. He was taken to St George Hospital.
He was just lying on the side of the road in the recovery position. Looks like his hand was quite badly cut.
Earlier, CCTV caught the man in the white T-shirt driving his car on the wrong side of Old Bush Road. Then, onto the Princes Highway, he crashes into this blue sedan. That's when Steve Mace and the other member of the public intervened.
We're just devastated, I guess. It's really upsetting.
The man and woman were in a domestic relationship. Police believe she was stabbed in the lead up to the crash, which is why he was driving so erratically. In all, 6 people injured, 4 stabbed, multiple ambulances up and down the highway, a rampage that started when the man's partner reached for the dashboard.
It was all to do with, she changed his radio station on him. We're all dead anyway. It's a big conspiracy about the jab and we're all getting followed.
A morning that saw a moment of madness and selfless acts of bravery by bystanders.
They've just turned up thinking it was just a normal motor vehicle accident, so they've obviously gone to render assistance to both people, and then they were faced with a male armed with a box cutter. Quite frightening, but very, very brave on those people's behalf.
At Engadine, Erin Ramsey, 9 News.
Sydney hospitals, we'll start that again with our microphone. Patients are being treated at 2 Sydney hospitals tonight. Our reporters are standing by. First, let's go to Erin Ramsey at St George Hospital, where the accused partner was taken in a critical condition. Erin, what information do you have for us?
Well, Pete, I have some good news in the wake of this incredibly distressing incident. I'm happy to report that the woman in her 40s, along with the 28-year-old male police officer and that heroic man who was stabbed in the abdomen as he tried to intervene, well, all 3 of them are right now in a stable condition here at St George Hospital. Pete, it is important to note that that woman is recovering from multiple horrific stab wounds to both her back and her chest. This is just the beginning of her emotional and mental healing process.
All right, Erin, thank you. We'll move to Liverpool Hospital now, where we find Ruth Wynne-Williams. That's where the alleged attacker was taken. Ruth, you have an update on his condition.
Tonight, Pete, police are here at Liverpool Hospital. They are guarding this 58-year-old man alleged to have caused all of this. His injuries are right now critical, Pete. Detectives confirming he was already known to them. Also, inside this hospital tonight, the man and woman who were in the other car, their injuries are not life-threatening. She has a broken arm tonight, Pete. They are both receiving support.
All right, Ruth, thank you so much. If you or anyone you know is a victim of domestic violence, you can call 1-800-RESPECT. That's 1-800-737-732. In the last few hours, Israel and Hezbollah have exchanged fire, with fears growing of all-out war in the Middle East. Hezbollah says its strikes are in retaliation for the killing of a top military commander last month.
Airstrikes hit southern Lebanon in what Israel is calling a preemptive move. The IDF claiming Hezbollah was preparing a large-scale attack.
In a self-defense act to remove these threats, the IDF is striking terror targets in Lebanon.
Sirens sounding in northern Israel soon after. Hezbollah says it fired more than 320 rockets and drones, targeting 11 Israeli military sites. This drone crashing near the Golan Heights. Hezbollah confirmed it's phase one of a response to the killing of its top commander in Beirut last month. Flights to and from Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport temporarily suspended during the barrage. Israel's security cabinet meeting declaring a state of emergency for the next 48 hours.
Israel will not tolerate Hezbollah's attacks on our civilians.
The Israeli military and Hezbollah have been exchanging fire since the Israel-Hamas war began, but this is a significant escalation. US President Joe Biden briefed on the events as fears mount further fighting could tip the region into a wider conflict. Mark Burrows, 9 News.
The ousting of the Northern Territory government has reverberated around the country as elections in Labor states and federally loom in coming months. The stunning result comes as the way thousands of Australians work and are paid is about to change.
Delight a decade in the making. 39-year-old Leah Finocchiaro on top in the top end after a thorough thumping of Labor.
This result represents a turning point in the Territory's future.
And potentially the country and Prime Minister.
I've got enough left over to come after him in the next federal election.
In the Territory, they have big tides, big tidal movements. The tide goes out big, tide comes in big, and I'd say we saw a Territory political tide.
That tide putting the Country Liberal Party in power, the first coalition win from opposition anywhere in Australia since 2018, breaking up the Labor red wall that had stretched across mainland Australia.
This was not just an indictment on Eva Lawler, but also on Prime Minister Anthony Albanese.
An election fought particularly on crime, providing a blueprint for possible blue waves to come. Queensland votes in October, WA in March, with the federal election looming next year.
You're a mug if you say there's never any federal implication.
Some lessons for the Prime Minister. Absolutely.
If we get the government right and we deal with the issues right, the politics will follow.
Around Australia and around the world, it is proving a tough time for incumbents. Federal Labor says its focus hasn't changed.
People are feeling the cost of living and we absolutely understand that.
A suite of workplace rules, including a new definition of casual workers and the right to disconnect outside of work hours, begin tomorrow.
Today is a nervous day for many businesses around the country.
Ahead of a nervous week, new inflation data on Wednesday, a month out from the next meeting of the Reserve Bank. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
A smash repair shop in Sydney's southwest has been destroyed in an intense fire around 10:30 this morning. 10 fire trucks rushed to Railway Parade at Cabramatta. An aerial appliance also called in for the firefight. The roof eventually collapsed. Crews remained for several hours after containing the blaze. No one was injured. An allegedly drunk driver is accused of crashing into 4 cars at Hunters Hill. It didn't stop there. Police say he then ended up ploughing into a home with a mother and her son sleeping inside.
You'll see it hit the first car, but you'll only hear it crash into the rest. An allegedly drunk driver behind the wheel on John Street in Hunters Hill, ploughing into 1, 2, 3, 4 parked cars before ending up in a home where young Jasper was sleeping.
It just sounded like a really gigantic thunderstrike.
Alongside his mum, Lisa.
Woke up, came downstairs, opened the front door, and right in my face is a headlight.
Lisa's also seen the accused, a 61-year-old coming to, and the extent of the damage he's accused of causing.
And I've walked out and I've got a gentleman trying to get out of the car. I've got another car over here in my driveway that was absolutely written off and another one that's on its side.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage, but on things that can be replaced.
It just could have been so much worse. It's phenomenal that no one was killed. It's absolutely, it's quite remarkable.
The driver's been taken to hospital and he's expected to be charged. Alex Heinke, 9 News.
Former Panther star Taylor May faced court today after spending the night behind bars, accused of breaching an AVO at Overton in Sydney's west. The order was taken out against the 23-year-old in May after he allegedly punched his wife in the face. He has been granted bail. It's been revealed that a body found at a park in Auburn was a 41-year-old man who lived in the area. Police made the discovery just before 7 a.m. yesterday and performed CPR, but he couldn't be saved. Officers have launched an investigation and are awaiting the results of a post-mortem to determine how he died. After months of being stuck in space, NASA has made the call to leave 2 stranded astronauts at the International Space Station until February next year. Their Boeing Starliner spacecraft too dangerous to make the journey home, with no guarantee it could get them back to Earth alive.
And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V.
It was meant to be an 8-day mission. Now it'll become an 8-month space ordeal.
Butch and Sonny will return with Crew 9 next February.
NASA ruling the troubled Boeing Starliner will return to Earth unmanned because the vessel simply isn't safe enough for the 2 American astronauts to make the journey back home.
It was just too much risk with the crew, and so we decided to pursue the uncrewed test flight.
And this is a test flight. We were expecting to find some things, and so we are finding stuff, and we're correcting it and making changes, making updates with our control team.
Butch and Sonny waiting until February when they can hitch a ride with Boeing's biggest competitor, Elon Musk's SpaceX, who will bring the pair home on the Crew 9 Dragon. Starliner suffered setbacks before it had even blasted off. On the launch pad in June, there were helium leaks. Then, in space, the craft's thruster stopped working. Engineers tried and failed to fix the issue.
There was just too much uncertainty in the prediction of the thrusters.
NASA pointing to past deadly mistakes. The 1986 Challenger and 2003 Columbia Space Shuttle disasters.
We lost 2 space shuttles as a result of there not being a culture in which information could come forward.
While NASA voted unanimously to bring Starliner back unmanned, Boeing wanted to proceed with the astronauts on board for the return, a risk the space agency deemed unacceptable.
Starliner will undock from the International Space Station next month. In the United States, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
Italian authorities are considering potential manslaughter charges as they work to find out what caused a luxury super yacht to sink off the coast of Sicily, killing 7 people, including British tech tycoon Mike Lynch. Speaking for the first time, investigators say they will focus on the extent people were warned about safety procedures. People in the Upper Hunter are still feeling rattled after 2 earthquakes in as many days, with a series of aftershocks still plaguing the region. CCTV emerging of yesterday's 4.5 magnitude quake, including the Muswellbrook Mare being interrupted at the footy.
Oh, that is another earthquake. You're joking. I've just said that. No, someone's shaking the back, aren't we?
Geoscience Australia says while future events are likely to be smaller, it's impossible to rule out a large earthquake. It's being billed as technology that will revolutionise how New South Wales Police operate, giving them instant access to unfolding emergencies. After a successful trial, Blue Link is being rolled out, allowing 000 callers to share video and information in real time.
Police emergency, this is Giselle. What's the address of your emergency?
It's a conversation that happens at least 1,500 times a day, but now these emergency call centre operators have a new tool, BlueLink, to get live video of a scene as it's unfolding, chat with callers in more than 100 languages, especially if they feel vulnerable, and pinpoint locations using GPS.
I can see exactly where you are. I'm just going to ask you to stay right there, okay? And police will be on their way.
This is real game changer, and you know, technology can be used for all sorts of things, but when you're using it for good like this, it is absolutely groundbreaking.
If the situation requires, callers are sent a link to click, allowing them to share information immediately and before police even arrive at the scene.
Which obviously enables police to understand the incident that they will be attending, equally how to resource that particular incident.
The entire system is consent-based, meaning you have to agree to participate once a link is sent to you. Police don't have any access to the data on your phone, but any information or video they collect can be used in court. Police have been testing BlueLink for 18 months. It was used in the aftermath of the stabbing at Westfield Bondi Junction to download hours of CCTV without the time-consuming process of attending in person. During the trial, they were also able to pinpoint more than 8,300 locations from 000 callers. 700 videos were live streamed during incidents and 1,500 chat messages were initiated. And they found 100 high-risk missing persons and 62 bushwalkers.
The GPS location is very accurate. Most of the time, from a description in for example, so the Blue Mountains, is difficult to pinpoint because landmarks can be seen from quite a distance away.
Police stress BlueLink is only for use in emergencies. Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
A rescue mission unfolded near the New South Wales-Queensland border this morning. Crews called to waters off Coolangatta with a giant humpback entangled in shark nets. After a few hours, the whale eventually waving off the awaiting specialists, freeing itself from the net. It is time now for our first check of the day's weather. Good evening, Amber.
Good evening to you, Pete. It was a mild and partly cloudy day with light to moderate northerly winds. A very dramatic sunrise over Balmoral this morning, the clouds nearly obscuring the light, while the water was extremely calm. The city only dropping to 18 degrees overnight. That is 9 degrees warmer than average before reaching a top of 23 just before midday. Our west falling to 13.5 degrees early this morning, slowly warming up to 21 by mid-afternoon. We can look forward to another week of warmer temperatures with not a lot of rain on the way either. I'll be back with a full forecast a little later, Pete.
Amber, thank you. Next in the news, ugly scenes at Parramatta. A mass brawl ends with a teen stabbed. The details coming up. Also, it's no golf course, but this motorist is teeing off at Botany, fuelled by rage. Hikers stranded, one swept away as flooding hits the Grand Canyon. And we took the NRL to the United States. So is this a sure sign the NFL is headed for Sydney? An 18-year-old has been stabbed in a brawl at Parramatta. Police say up to 10 men were fighting in the lobby of a building on Church Street around 9:30 last night. The teen suffered injuries to his leg and was taken to hospital in a stable condition. No arrests have been made. This driver at Botany had a fright after they were cut off by a group of masked men near the foreshore boat ramp. New dashcam vision of the encounter on Tuesday shows the driver reversing as one of the men takes a swing at the vehicle with a golf club. A 17-year-old has been arrested after allegedly crashing a car at Burwood. Police were called to Liverpool Road just before 2 a.m. and found the abandoned vehicle had hit a pole. The teenager was eventually located and taken into custody. German police have arrested 2 people, including a 15-year-old boy, over a deadly stabbing rampage at an arts festival. Islamic State claiming responsibility for the attack, which claimed 3 lives and left at least 4 others injured.
The morning after the horror of the night before, the mayor of the city of Solingen saying, "Last night our hearts were torn apart." A massive police operation was launched after a man and woman in their 50s and a man in his 60s were killed and 8 people injured, 4 seriously, at a festival to mark the city's 650th anniversary. Police raiding a hostel for asylum seekers in the town before announcing they'd made arrests. One was a 26-year-old suspected of carrying out the stabbing attack. Local media saying his clothes were covered in blood. As well, a 15-year-old was detained after two women overheard him indicating he knew about the rampage before it happened. As to a motive, police say they were investigating terrorism, citing the fact the attacker was slashing his victims' throats with a knife. ISIS claimed the perpetrator was a soldier of the Islamic State who carried it out in revenge for Muslims in Palestine and everywhere. A performer at the festival, DJ Topic, said on Instagram, even in the aftermath of the rampage, police asked him to keep playing to avoid mass panic. Really close friends of mine were there with their small kids. What's happening to this world? Festivals in neighbouring towns have been cancelled this weekend. In London, Brett McLeod, Nine News.
Ukraine has marked its 33rd Independence Day as its war against Russia's invasion continues. Russia and Ukraine also exchanging more than 100 prisoners of war, as President Zelensky reiterated the country's resolve to regain its territorial integrity. 11 people are dead and 14 others missing after flooding swept through a city in northeast China. Local media is reporting the torrential rain has caused more than $1 billion damage. Rescuers are still trying to find those missing. More than 100 people have been rescued after heavy rain swept through the Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona. Waterfalls were turned into muddy torrents by the flash flooding. One hiker is still missing after being swept into a creek during the downpour. The Paralympic flame has been lit in a village northwest of London, 2 weeks after the Paris Olympic flame was extinguished. Stoke Mandeville is considered the birthplace of the Games after a small competition was held in 1948 for a group of wheelchair athletes who had sustained spinal injuries during World War II. $80 million in unclaimed toll relief. It's just sitting there. How to make sure you don't miss out. An extraordinary series of events leads to police pulling their weapons on a teenage boy at Forestville. Move over MPs see why everyday Sydney-siders have taken over state parliament. And cars ditched for carriages as a tiny Aussie town steps back in time. "551 people have been arrested, including this man in Marsfield, as police renew their efforts to stamp out alleged domestic violence. Detectives from the high-risk DV Offenders Unit surrounding homes and carrying out nearly 17,000 compliance checks as part of Operation Amarok. Investigators laying 642 charges in 4 days. Police pulled their gun and taser on this teenager at Forestville last night after he was seen with a firearm of his own. Officers were called to Borey Street by the host of a party whose event had been crashed by a group of teens. 150 of them crowded the street, throwing glass bottles at police. The 17-year-old's weapon was later confirmed as a toy pistol. A brawl has broken out during a junior rugby league match in our southwest. Police were called to Stacey Street in Bankstown yesterday afternoon. The crowd, who were part of an under-13s game, had already dispersed by the time officers got there. No one was hurt. Some Sydney motorists are sitting on a fortune and they don't even know it. New South Wales Treasury revealing $80 million in toll relief is waiting to be collected by drivers. Mark Burrows explains.
Peter, under the toll relief scheme, drivers who spend more than $60 a week are eligible for cashback. They can claim up to $340 per week. It seems some of us have forgotten the scheme exists or are too busy to claim. A pot of $80 million in unclaimed toll relief is fattening the government's coffers. It's estimated 6,000 motorists are on target to receive $4,000 in relief this year, if they lodge their claims, of course. The government says the figures show the cash rebates are going to where they are needed, suburbs such as Blacktown, Baulkham Hills and Marsden Park. The average rebate so far this year, $254. The government wants to reform the toll cap scheme to make it fairer for those in the outer west. You can claim via the Service New South Wales website or app, with the rebate available every quarter. Peter.
Mark, thank you. There's concern for the state's frontline workers tonight. A Union's New South Wales survey found 42% are considering an interstate move, are working a second job or thinking of finding one. Healthcare is worst hit, with 67% of workers contemplating better pay elsewhere.
We are seeing our trained, talented essential service workers flee to other jurisdictions, and this ongoing retention crisis is getting worse and worse.
Nurses say pay rates are more than 17% higher in Queensland. Cause for celebration for Australia's oldest parliament today. Thousands visiting Macquarie Street in the CBD, where the first meeting by the New South Wales Legislative Council took place 200 years ago.
We're welcoming anybody who wants to come in today to see the Parliament, to see how it operates, to walk into the chambers, to sit in the Speaker's chair. It's a day where the people can truly understand what their democratic institutions are all about.
The event so popular, organisers had to cut off registrations at almost 5,000. A journey back in time in outback Queensland today, with an 18th century style horse-drawn carriage retracing the final steps of Australia's iconic bush postal service. The run commemorating 100 years since Cobb & Co made its last voyage.
500 kilometres west of Brisbane, a journey back through time. A horse-drawn carriage ride to the 18th century, when this was the only form of transport. A festival celebrating Cobb & Co, recreating the company's final mail run in Queensland in 1924.
If you could go back 100 years ago, we wouldn't be dressed like this. Mightn't have any boots on, because times were tough.
The coach service was founded in Victoria in 1854 and quickly became the lifeline of the bush, connecting services and people in the outback.
Everybody back in the day, farmers, every business required horses or draft animals to do it.
This 76-kilometre journey between Surat and Yuliba, broken up into 7 legs. A 2-day trip that would only take an hour by car, and it's not exactly a smooth ride.
You might have noticed by now there's no suspension. I know that.
But it's not all a laughing matter, with bushrangers lurking around the bend.
Put them in the air.
These miniature troublemakers doing their best to raise money for the Surat Pony Club.
Hopefully when we hold the coach up, some people have got some coins in their pockets and might make a small donation to our club.
The coach accompanied by other carts towed by camels and bullocks, as well as one little pony who apparently needed the exercise.
Yeah, she's been in a good paddock. She's been running with the camels and the ponies at home, so she wears a bit of a tummy.
When the convoy finally rolled into its destination, every man and his dog had a front row seat.
Done such a marvellous job, the organiser. I reckon it's great.
A fun way to relive history and commemorate the end of the coach road. Cam Inglis, 9 News.
Sydney's push to host an NFL game is kicking up a gear, with the Core Stadium attempting to woo organisers. Screens at the venue lighting up with the sports logo, the National Football League signalling interest in an Australian fixture next year. Representatives have been scoping out stadiums in recent months, including the MCG. Taking on scammers and winning, Chris Kohler on how the big banks are keeping your money safe and the top 3 scams you need to watch out for. Transforming Parramatta's iconic Roxy Theatre into our West's new dining mecca. It's divided locals. Those stories after sport with James, and the race for the final top 8 spot has got very interesting.
Hello, Pete. It certainly has. The Sharks shoring up their place inside the top 4, while the Dragons of how the Roosters' rout of the Titans piles more pressure on the Panthers. Last, the Giants' late season slip-up locks in a final showdown with the Swans.
And we're in for some very summery weather this week, with temperatures nudging 30 degrees. I'll have your full forecast soon.
the right to clock off and switch off. New rules for Australian workplaces start now.
This is such a new, important right for workers.
I'd be interested in how they actually implement that in practice.
I think it's beneficial for us, mental health, physical health.
Everything you need to know. 9 News, your news, Monday at 6.
There's always plenty of feeling when the Sharks and the Dragons do battle, but with so much on the line, this result meant more than ever. St George Illawarra's chances to all but secure a spot in the finals denied by their fiercest rivals, thumped 38 points to 10.
The Sharks are never made to feel welcome in Dragons' heartland, but now only 2 points ahead of the Broncos, Dolphins, Knights and Raiders. 5 teams battling for one remaining spot in the finals. Nicole Dunn, 9 News.
It was always going to be a tough ask, but the Dolphins couldn't take their chance to return to the top 8, thrashed by the Storm in Melbourne last night. The 48-6 demolition, seeing the Dolphins drop to 10th, while delivering the Storm the minor premiership.
I think it's a little bit underrated, understated, but having said that, by Tuesday, everyone would have forgot who won the minor premiership.
The Knights kept their finals aspirations alive with a 36-16 win over the Rabbitohs. Cam Murray's season looks to be over, though, hit with a 2-game ban for a high shot. The Roosters have leapfrogged the Panthers into second on the ladder, and it's come with a warning from coach Trent Robinson. We're only getting better. Their latest victory, a 48-22 thrashing of the Gold Coast, but it could come at a cost heading into the finals.
Even for the NRL's most dangerous attack, this was ruthless, and the Roosters say there's far more to come.
We're confident, with belief in what we're doing. We know that our best is in front of us.
9 tries for the Tricolours. The Titans never looked like reeling them in.
What a piece of play!
Angus Crichton scored 3 on his own.
I was talking up to the boys. I wanted to get some tries this week because I've been starving the last few weeks.
And although the Gold Coast came up with a few tricks of their own, Alofi Khan Pereira also bagging a hat-trick.
He goes coast to coast!
The Roosters' biggest concerns came from within.
With Swaliti out of action and in a lot of discomfort.
Joseph Swaliti looked to have suffered a serious shoulder injury, but the outlook is optimistic.
He had a really bad stinger. It was getting better there the longer the game went, but not enough to get the strength back to play. But let's hope by tomorrow it's in a good spot.
The same can't be said for Jared Warrior-Hargraves. His first game back from suspension, he was sent to the sin bin and now faces another nervous wait.
It was disappointing for him to go to the bin, but I might keep it at that, to be honest.
Sam Jordan, 9 News.
West Tigers are still waiting for their first win of the NRLW season, letting in 38 unanswered points in the second half, beaten 44-14 by the Broncos. The Roosters were unable to keep their tempers in check in a 26-6 thumping from the Titans. The Gold Coast back in winning form for the first time since round 2. Well, the Swans will host the Giants in an AFL Finals blockbuster after GWS fell short in their bid to secure a top 2 finish, going down to the Western Bulldogs by 37 points this afternoon. It was a close match until the Dogs kicked the last 4 goals. The Giants now solely focused on the derby in a fortnight.
Look, they've been the best team all year, Sydney, without question. Like everyone, they've had a little bit of a dip in form, but seems like they've recovered really well. They've beaten us twice already this year, so it's going to be a tough match.
Details of the finals will be confirmed tomorrow, but 9 News understands it's been slated for Friday, September 6 at the SCG. The Swans will come into that match at full strength and full of belief after claiming a 31-point win over the Crows. John Longmire says Tom Papley and Justin McKerney are set to return, adding to the confidence they've collected by winning their first minor premiership since 2016.
We realise the work's, in some ways, well ahead of us in the coming weeks. But you have to take a moment just to reflect. It's a hard enough game as it is, and over a 23-week season to finish where we are is a great effort from a lot of people.
Chad Warner made a successful return from his calf injury last night, while Isaac Heaney was rested. Tottenham has kick-started its Premier League season. Ange Postecoglou's men thrashing Everton 4-0. The Aussie slammed his side for not taking their chances in their opening match draw. This morning, they had no such troubles. Champions Manchester City were even more clinical, up 4-0 against Ipswich Town inside 16 minutes on their way to a 4-1 win. Elsewhere, Arsenal defeated Aston Villa 2-0. Oscar Piastri has another podium finish in his sights, the Aussie qualifying third fastest for the Dutch Grand Prix. McLaren teammate Lando Norris claiming his third pole of the season, with world champion Max Verstappen in second. The track proving challenging, with Williams' Logan Sargent escaping a horror smash in practice, taking an overly aggressive approach to turn number 3. And golf can be a cruel game. Just one day after shooting the course record at Castle Pines, Adam Scott has come right back to the field thanks to a round of 74. Sending his tee shot out of bounds on the first, the Australian made the turn in 40, but he rallied with a strong back 9, keeping him in title contention, one shot behind leader Keegan Bradley. Pete, great to be back in the chair alongside you, and good time of year to be right here as well.
How long have you been away for?
It feels like too long.
It's good to have you back.
It is.
See you tomorrow. Thank you, James. Next in 9 News, don't become a victim. The 3 main scams Aussies are still falling for. A makeover for our 118-year-old coat of arms will tell you the quirky reason why. And grand dining plans for Parramatta's iconic Roxy Theatre, but not everyone is happy. Construction union members will march on state parliament this week, protesting a move to put the CFMEU into administration. The federal government's decision has led to more than 270 officials being axed, including New South Wales leadership. Australia's banks are finally getting on top of scammers, with customer losses dropping significantly this year. But security bosses warn constant vigilance is still needed to avoid becoming a victim.
In the war against scammers, battles are finally being won. Almost every major bank is now showing off improvements.
We, on average, stopping about $12 to $14 million of scam attempts every month.
Scammers are still targeting Australians in huge numbers, but losses are tumbling. At ANZ and Commonwealth Bank, scam losses halved in the last year. At Westpac, they're down 31% and 24% at NAB. Shaq Johnson runs ANZ's security operations, spending his time, as he puts it, throwing sand in the gears of scammers.
We consume all of this data, we process the data, we make sense of it. If we need to slow things down, we do that. If we make to establish contact with the customer, we pick up the phone to try to understand what's going on.
All of the banks say they've spent hundreds of millions fighting scammers, much of it working to slow down payments and stop repeat losses.
Customers sometimes will fall victim to a scam once, but they also then fall victim to a scam a second time. We do see that quite often.
Shantara Lowe is on the front line. Just this week, she stopped a payment going to a scammer, even though the customer was convinced it was for a great investment.
We actually cancelled the payment and prevented him from losing about $50,000.
3 types of scams remain the big threat for Australians. First, impersonation scams, where someone pretends they're from the bank, your telco or the tax office. They often say they're chasing a bill. Second, investment scams, usually touting huge returns, and usually it's in crypto. And third, remote access scams, where a scammer offers urgent technical support, asking to remotely log into your computer only to steal money and data. And while losses are falling now, security bosses say there can be no rest.
We are seeing the scammers diversify their attacks. They are definitely trying different techniques. We have evidence to suggest that they are using AI technology.
Desperation because scamming Australians, we're told, is getting harder. Chris Kohler, 9 News.
The state's 118-year-old coat of arms is in line for a modern makeover. The symbol, featuring a lion and a kangaroo, couldn't be successfully replicated in digital format, so a redesign and digitisation of the file is underway for the first time. The tweaks will be rolled out later this year. Plans to redevelop the heritage-listed Roxy Theatre into a precinct of restaurants, cafes and bars have been lodged with Parramatta Council. But critics of the $20 million refurbishment say the project would reduce seating by half in the theatre's auditorium, killing off hopes for it to become a showpiece performance centre. Under the plan, the back of the Roxy, which closed in 2014, would be demolished for a 3-storey addition. Coming up in our news, Amber with the weather.
Thanks, Pete. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a slight chance of a shower, and we are in for another very mild night. Right now it is still around 20 degrees outside. I'll have your full forecast next. After a warm night, it was a mild and partly cloudy day with light to moderate northerly winds. Top temperatures up to 5 degrees warmer than average, reaching 21 in Penrith, 22 in Terry Hills, 23 in the city, Liverpool and Parramatta, 22 in Campbelltown. Patchy rain fell across central and northern parts of the state today with a storm moving through the southern tablelands this afternoon. It was dry and mostly sunny in the far northeast corner and became sunny in the far west during the afternoon. Top temperatures were well above average, particularly across the far northwest, where temperatures were 8 to 14 degrees above the August average, while Cooma Airport reported a wind gust of 91 kilometres an hour. That's the strongest gust in nearly 2 years. Tomorrow, a cold front in the west will push gusty westerly winds ahead of it, while a high is building in the east, and that will see the showers and storms ease over South Australia, Victoria, Tasmania and New South Wales. Let's take a look around the country tomorrow. Morning fog expected in Brisbane with a top of 31, partly cloudy in Canberra, 16 degrees, just a possible shower in Melbourne with a top of 18. Staying dry in Hobart, 16 degrees. Showers clearing in Adelaide and just a possible shower on the way for Perth with a top of 21. New South Wales will be mostly sunny tomorrow with temperatures soaring once again above the August average. Heading for a top of 19 degrees in Mudgee and Griffith, 23 on the way for Batemans Bay and Bega, 25 in Newcastle and a very summery 30 degrees for Grafton. After a very mild night, Sydney will be sunny tomorrow with gusty northwesterlies turning southwesterly during the morning. Heading for a top of 22 in Terry Hills and Cronulla, 23 degrees on the way for Campbelltown, 24 in the city and Parramatta, while Penrith will be our warmest suburb, hitting 25 degrees. Let's take a look ahead, and the city will be sunny on Tuesday with a top of 24, warming up to 28 degrees on Wednesday with gusty winds. Thursday is looking like the coolest day of the week, only reaching 22. But take a look at Friday, sunny and 29 degrees. That is 11 degrees warmer than average. The weekend looking great too, tops of 26 to 27 degrees, and nights also staying warmer than average, ranging from 11 to 16 degrees. Let's take a look at our west, sunny and 25 on Tuesday, a windy 27 degrees on Wednesday, partly cloudy with a cooler 23 on Thursday, and then once again looking forward to a gorgeous day on Friday, sunny and 28 degrees with the sunshine sticking around for the weekend, tops of 26. Now tonight will be one of the warmest of the week with lows ranging from 15 down to 8 degrees, Pete.
Amber, thank you. Before we go, here's a quick look at what's in store on tonight's edition of 60 Minutes.
Thanks, Pete. Tonight,
this is romance scam times a million.
exposing the scammers.
They are brainwashing techniques.
Latest devious tricks.
You can't believe your eyes.
It's like a live deepfake.
Yeah.
How AI is earning them billions.
We haven't seen anything like this in the world before.
As more victims get stung.
I just knew in that moment I'd been done.
From these secret scam factories. Pretty heinous and calculated.
Absolutely. But they know what they're doing.
That's tonight after the block. Back to you, Pete.
Thank you, Adam, and I'll have the late news for you from 9:30 tonight. That is 9 News for this Sunday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.